If you're tired all the time, and not the good kind of tired after a long walk, but the bone deep, can't shake it kind of tired, you've probably been told the same thing more than once. That's just part of getting older. Maybe a doctor said it during a rushed appointment. Maybe a friend said it. Maybe you've started saying it to yourself. Here's the problem with that explanation. It's almost never actually true. Age itself doesn't cause fatigue. What causes fatigue are specific, identifiable things that become more common as we get older. And nearly all of them are things you can actually do something about once you know what to look for. In this video, we're going to walk through the real reasons behind persistent fatigue in people over 60, one at a time, so you have a clear list of things worth asking your doctor about instead of just accepting exhaustion as your new normal. Let's start with sleep, but not in the way you'd expect. Most people assume fatigue means I'm not sleeping enough, so they focus on getting more hours in bed. But quantity of sleep and quality of sleep are two very different things, and after 60, quality is usually the bigger issue. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in older adults. It causes your breathing to briefly stop or shallow out repeatedly through the night, sometimes dozens of times an hour, without you ever fully waking up enough to remember it. You might sleep a full 8 hours and still wake up feeling like you got 2. Warning signs include loud snoring, waking up gasping, morning headaches, and a bed partner noticing pauses in your breathing. This is worth bringing up with a doctor specifically because it's treatable, and treating it often produces a bigger improvement in energy than almost anything else on this list. Second, your thyroid. Your thyroid gland controls your metabolism, essentially how efficiently your body converts food into usable energy. An underactive thyroid, called hypothyroidism, becomes noticeably more common with age, especially in women. It causes fatigue, weight gain, feeling cold all the time, dry skin, and a kind of mental sluggishness people often describe as brain fog. The frustrating part is that these symptoms overlap so much with normal aging that they get dismissed constantly. A simple blood test can check your thyroid function, and if it's off, it's very manageable once identified. Third, anemia. Anemia means your blood doesn't have enough healthy red blood cells to carry oxygen efficiently to your tissues. When your cells aren't getting enough oxygen, everything feels harder. Walking upstairs, carrying groceries, even just thinking clearly. Anemia in older adults can come from several sources: iron deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, chronic inflammation, or slow internal blood loss that hasn't been detected yet. This is one of those things that's genuinely worth ruling out with a simple blood test, because the fatigue it causes can be significant, and the underlying cause sometimes needs its own attention. Fourth, vitamin D and B12 levels. These two nutrients deserve their own mention because deficiencies in either one are extremely common after 60, and both cause fatigue as a primary symptom. Vitamin D production in skin becomes less efficient with age, and many older adults simply don't get enough sun exposure or dietary intake to compensate. Vitamin B12 absorption from food also declines with age, partly because stomach acid, which you need to release B12 from food, naturally decreases over time. Low B12 can cause not just fatigue, but also tingling in the hands and feet, and difficulty concentrating. Both of these are checked with routine blood work and are relatively straightforward to correct once identified, always under a doctor's guidance rather than guessing at supplements on your own. Fifth, medication side effects. This one is important, and I want to be careful about how I say it. A lot of medications commonly prescribed to older adults for blood pressure, allergies, sleep, anxiety, and pain list fatigue or drowsiness as a known side effect. If your tiredness started or got noticeably worse around the same time you started a new prescription, that's worth mentioning to your doctor or pharmacist directly. They may be able to adjust timing, dosage, or find an alternative. What I won't tell you to do is stop or change any medication on your own. That can be genuinely dangerous depending on the drug. The right move is simply to raise it as a specific question at your next appointment. Could any of my medications be contributing to my fatigue? Sixth, heart function. Fatigue can sometimes be an early sign that your heart isn't pumping blood as efficiently as it used to, a condition that can develop gradually and quietly. This is especially worth paying attention to if your fatigue is paired with shortness of breath, swelling in the ankles or legs, or if you find yourself needing to stop and rest during activities that used to be easy. This isn't meant to alarm you. It's meant to make sure that if this is what's happening, it gets caught early when it's most manageable. Seventh, blood sugar issues. Both diabetes and prediabetes can cause persistent fatigue, and a surprising number of people walking around with elevated blood sugar don't know it yet. When your cells can't efficiently use glucose for energy, you feel it, often as an afternoon crash or a tiredness that doesn't really improve no matter how much rest you get. A simple fasting blood sugar or A1C test can check for this, and it's one of the more common, correctable causes of chronic fatigue in this age group. Eighth, depression and emotional health. This one gets missed constantly in older adults, partly because depression doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks exactly like fatigue: low energy, loss of motivation, trouble concentrating, sleeping too much or too little. Life changes that become more common later in life, retirement, loss of loved ones, reduced mobility, social isolation, can all contribute. This deserves the same seriousness as any physical cause, and it's just as treatable. If this resonates with you, talking to a doctor or counselor is a reasonable and worthwhile step. Ninth, dehydration. This sounds almost too simple to matter, but it genuinely does. As we age, the sensation of thirst becomes duller. Your body can be running low on fluids without sending you a clear signal to drink. Even mild dehydration measurably affects energy levels and concentration. If you're not making a deliberate effort to drink water throughout the day, this alone could be part of the picture. 10th, simple deconditioning. This is the one nobody wants to hear, but it matters. When fatigue makes you move less and moving less makes you more deconditioned, and being deconditioned makes ordinary activity feel more tiring, that becomes a cycle that reinforces itself. Gentle, consistent movement, even short walks, tends to build energy rather than drain it over time. This isn't about doing more than your body is ready for. It's about breaking a cycle that resting through it can actually make worse. So what should you actually do with all of this? Start by not accepting "it's just age" as a full answer. That phrase describes a symptom, not a cause. A useful next step is a straightforward conversation with your doctor where you ask directly, "Can we check my thyroid, blood count, vitamin D, B12, and blood sugar, and review whether any of my medications could be contributing to my fatigue?" That's a specific, actionable request, and it covers the most common and correctable causes in one visit. It's also worth keeping a simple log for a couple of weeks. When you feel most tired, how you're sleeping, what you're eating, how much water you're drinking. That kind of pattern is genuinely useful information for a doctor to work with, and it turns a vague complaint like "I'm always tired" into something concrete they can actually investigate. Fatigue is common after 60, but common doesn't mean unavoidable, and it doesn't mean unexplainable. In the overwhelming majority of cases, there's a real, identifiable, and treatable reason behind it. You deserve to actually find out what that reason is, rather than quietly living with less energy than you should have. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments which of these you're planning to ask your doctor about. And if someone you know has been brushing off their own fatigue as just aging, consider sending this their way.